a little bit about what we're experiencing going on in the world.
Yes, it's there.
Some stuff to take away. You might all want to just mute yourselves, otherwise we might hear some of your personal goings on. And boy, has that been interesting over the past couple of months, seeing what goes on in people's homes and hearing what goes on. But let's dive straight in. I'll share a little bit about myself and what I get up to and how I do it as we have this, this presentation. We are going to have some time at the end to deal with any questions that might come up for you. So pop them into the side chat. Also, you may find with Zoom, you've got some adjustability. There is, if you're looking at the side of the screen, you'll see there's a little white thing, a couple of lines. You can drag that across so you can make the slides bigger and play with them. Also, in terms of the slides, I will share an abridged version of the slide deck and all of the tools with you. You're welcome to pop over to our website, register there and download, or we can circulate accordingly. So I was, it was 1624 on the 26th of March, 2020, which is now a few months behind us. And I was sitting here at home and I had been dealing with my own massive anxiety for the couple of weeks prior to just a couple of hours before we were going into the lockdown. We were going to lockdown at midnight that night. And I had no connectivity. The fiber lines in my area, or rather the cables and the ADSL lines had gone down. So I was sitting with this big WTF, and it was, where's the fiber? Because I knew that if we went into lockdown and I had no connectivity, I was going to disappear from the world. I live alone and I have businesses to run. This was the biggest thing going through my mind. I also had a feeling that we were going to be in this lockdown for longer than 3 weeks. So we were going to have this experience. We were going to be experiencing disruption like we had never experienced it before. And disruption's been a big theme over the years. It's become almost a bit of a business and life buzzword. Disruption, disrupt industry, disrupt this, disrupt that. This was disruption different to what any of us had experienced. And it really was a different dis. This was the disruption of dislocation. We were suddenly all separated from what we knew, separated from where we were used to going to. We literally were dislocated from each other. And many of us remain dislocated from each other still. And with dislocation comes pain, another discomfort. So, however, this is not the dis that I was worried about. I was worried about disconnection. I was worried about the fact that I was used to waking up in the morning and going and connecting with a whole lot of people, whether they were my colleagues, my partners, my clients, socially with friends. Suddenly I was going to be locked down, like this gent on the right of your image, maybe with a kid, not in my case, but I was going to be disconnected. And that really is the theme of what this past couple of months has felt and looked like for many of us. Disconnection, and that disconnection has had an impact psychologically, physically, intellectually, financially. We're experiencing this extreme discomfort because of disconnection. Now, it's important to understand that this remote experience that we're all having, have been having and continue to have, is not remote in the sense of what we have been hearing about for a number of years. This is not what remote working really looks and feels like. This is remote COVID-19 style. This is remote with the discomfort of kids being at home, quite possibly, with us having to learn how to homeschool. Normally, kids would go off to school, and if you were working remotely, you'd be doing a thing at home. This was a remote with us being imprisoned in our homes, not being able to even just drive down the road to the shops without the risk of being stopped and even arrested. This was a remote with discomforts that we could not ever have imagined. And it's really important to understand the psychological stress that comes with that. Because we were literally given just a limited amount of time to adjust, plan, and get ready to be stuck at home. We thought we didn't have enough time to do a lot of the things that we did until we had no choice. And we literally had no choice. Now, the question I'm asking a lot of people at the moment is, what would you have done differently if you had more time to plan those couple of weeks, depending on how long it took you to get the message, a couple of days before going into the lockdown? What did you learn in that first period of adjustment? And have you made the changes so that if this was to happen again, you've got that stuff covered? Don't get caught with your pants down. It's really important. Don't get caught with your pants down. Now, with this dis and this human experience came a whole lot of other dis emotions and dis experiences. And the list goes on. It's extensive. I'm not going to go into it because the one that we need to be paying attention to, I believe, is disorganization. Because we had the opportunity to get organized, but a lot of us have not. And the impact of disorganization is chaos. So where do we now need to start getting ourselves organized? And my work, my organization, Still Human, we help companies to remain relevant. We're a relevance advisory. And what we found is the biggest impact, negative impactor for organizations who are struggling right now is that their inability to get organized. They remain disorganized in a completely new world. They came into this disorganized and haven't been able to adjust and adapt. Where might you be? Where might you be in terms of your own disorganization or organization? Those that are moving forward successfully, those that have been able to adapt, were those that were well organized, or those who have very quickly worked out how to get organized. So what does this mean for our future? WTF, what is the future? Firstly, really important to understand, this is not just an intermission. This is not just a break. I see people bargaining for, it's just another couple of weeks. Well, we've seen by now that whatever you thought was going to happen is not just another couple of weeks. There's a lot more than another couple of days, weeks, or months. This is now how it is. This is real. This is how we are going to be living. So we need to adapt and get organized for that. The future is right now in the reality, in the present. No imagined possibilities. It is what we're experiencing at the moment. So the conversation that we are having extensively with our clients and various organizations is, now, how do we get into focus? How do we become intentional? How do we start to move forward? And the banner for the work that we're driving hard at the moment is business continuity through human continuity. As human beings, we need to carry on because a lot of people are using COVID as an excuse. It's oh, well, because of COVID, I can't do this, I can't do that. I'm just, yes, times are tough. We are all having the same really, really difficult and challenging experience. There's no denying that. And we need to have empathy for ourselves and for other people because of just how hard it is right now. However, at the same time, we need to move forward. Business needs to continue. Business needs to carry on. Business is a significant contributor to the economy and to our overall human experience. It's not the only contributor to the economy, but it is significant. So we as business owners, leaders, participants need to find a way forward. And the way forward is through reactivating and reaccessing and switching human beings on. This is where leaders need to shine. This is where each of us as human beings need to shine. So Tove held up a copy of the book that my co-author and business partner, Andy Golding, and I had hit the shelves about 1.5 years ago, and we had no idea. The book is called We're Still Human and Work Shouldn't Suck. And we had no idea just how relevant our research was going to be when we were doing it 5-6 years ago. We got into the space, and that the piece of work we produced was going to be so relevant for the world that we've accidentally found ourselves in right now. The core theme was that humans are not a resource. They are the source, and they are the source of everything a company does. And what we did was we went around the world looking at the best organizations to work for, organizations that are obsessed about creating the best employee experience. And we sought to learn what is it that they do, what is it that they focus on to create this great employee experience. And there was a significant link between the employee experience and the external response to market needs, customer needs, but it is an inside-out act, and I'll explain that a little bit later on. It starts inside your organization. Now, through the research, what we found was there was a strong desire to move from regarding people as human resources to regarding them as resourceful humans. And now, with this dislocation that we're experiencing, more so now than ever before, become critical to access the resourcefulness of human beings, to innovate and to switch people on. So to move from HR to RH, to flip that script, moving from HR to RH. Are your people experiencing themselves as human resources, the people you engage, lead, work with, or they're experiencing themselves as resourceful humans? Think about it. It's become critical to be able to lead from anywhere and learn from anywhere. We can't be hustling people back into rooms. We need to understand that this is a distance game. Now, the starting point is you. I really want to emphasize how critical it is that you get yourself in check. And by in check, I mean, how are you self-preserving? What is your nutritional intake? Are you sleeping? Are you making sure you're sleeping? I know that sounds insane because many of us are working harder, but right now you need more than anything to be nurturing your immunity. We are all probably, the statistics indicate, going to get ill. We will all probably survive, but our chance of survival lives in the quality of our immunity. Are you taking time for yourself? Have you looked at your workspace? And have you created that you've got a space where you can isolate, work, do what you need to do, and then escape that space to go and family, be social, exercise within your home space? Are you exercising? Have you got someone to offload to? Are you getting done what you need to do to feel as if you're contributing meaningfully? These are all critical components of wellness. And it's really important that you take those items down and you think about them. And are you focused and intentional around them? Because if you are broken, you're going to struggle to give anything out. And right now, many of us are needing to give out, but you cannot give what you do not have. To clients, to people you lead, or to colleagues. You cannot give what you do not have. So what do you need to do to fill your tank? What do you need to do to fill your tank?
Good.
At the same time, it's really important to understand what's going into your own headspace. What are you allowing in? What messages are you allowing in? What are you allowing to become your data reference? Because right now, there's a lot of noise out there. There are a lot of experts. None of us really know. So who you are following, who you are listening to. Be very, very careful what you're allowing to become your truth.
Right, yeah.
We just mute everybody there, please. Thank you. Be very careful about what you are allowing to become your truth, because that will guide a lot of the decisions you make, the choices you make. And right now, those are the things that are going to enhance your wellness and take you into a really stressed space. The contagion of focus and empathy is equal to the contagion of negativity and chaos. Now, that ripple effect, what is it that you're wanting to be putting out? Yourself. Never mind listening to what other people are saying and the messaging other people are putting out. What are you putting out? What is the energy that you're exhibiting? And I say this all understanding it is difficult right now. We are stressed out. It is hard. What is the impact that we're having on other people? What is the ripple effect that you are looking to create? Now, for the past few minutes, I've spoken to you and about you in terms of how you are containing yourself, how you are nurturing yourself, and ultimately, how you are able to then show up. The next conversation I want to raise is one about performance, because human continuity is what I've been talking about in terms of you, but we also want to go into the business continuity, and we need to understand how to measure and design and drive performance. So I've created a formula, and this is what I call the performance formula. And this is to demystify. Right now, it's really hard to think. There's so much going on. We don't know what to think or where to put our feet, really. And I'll touch on that just now, but how do you view performance? So this is the formula that we've been working with, and it's P equals W times A times A. And what does this mean? It means performance is a person's willingness times by their ability times by their authorization. Let me peel away the layers of that for you. So if we focus first on a person's willingness, are they willing to perform? If there's no willingness, it's like trying to take a horse to water and force it to drink. It's not going to happen. So how do we create that at the moment? The question you need to be asking is, are the people you lead or work with being switched on and grown? By switched on, I mean encouraged to participate, enthused, inspired, motivated, and grown, being invited to participate intellectually. Switched on and grown? Or are they being switched off and depleted? Switched off, uninspired, demotivated, disconnected, not wanting to contribute, and depleted, not being invited to include their intellectual participation. Switched on and grown, switched off and depleted. And every single moment of engagement is taking us in one of these two directions. This is not a static thing. We are constantly moving with every response, every communication, every moment of engagement, every moment that we create experience with someone else. We're taking them in one of these two directions. The question you've got to be asking yourself is, in which direction are we going with more frequency, and with what intensity do we go there? Because that is creating the experience for other people. Really important to understand as well, there are no neutral moments. Every single moment of connection, of creating experience, takes people in one of the two directions. And this is in all areas of our lives. This is in our personal relationships. This could be in a parenting context. This could be in terms of the people we lead. This could be in terms of our clients. Every touch point, every component of experience is taking people in these directions, and there are no neutral moments. Now, in our research, what we did is we had a look at what do these organizations that create great employee experience do? And we call these companies behaving awesomely, or as we abbreviated, CBAs. And a CBA is a company to which the best people want to come, do come, choose to stay at, and while they're working there, they shoot the lights out. Now, pre-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID, this is what you want to be creating. This is the type of organization that we should be looking to build, where the best people want to come, do come, choose to stay, and shoot the lights out. Because what this creates is exceptional business outputs and kick-ass innovation. And they're proud to say they work there. Right now is your organization an organization to which people are proud to belong? Are they proud to belong there? Now, what a lot of organizations do is they focus on engagement. And this drives us crazy. We see clients coming to us and saying, yeah, we just spent X amount of millions of dollars on and sorry if your organization is one of these, on an engagement survey with these fancy international consultants. And they show us the results. And the results don't tell us anything other than the fact that you now know how unengaged to a percentage your people are. We know our people are 27.8% unengaged. What do you do with that? We rather focus on understanding the experience touch points. What is it that creates the experience people are having? Because experience ultimately creates the level of engagement or disengagement, all of those experience touch points. And ultimately, experience and employee experience is the sum of everything in the work environment that creates how employees are made to feel, whether they are being switched on and grown or switched off and depleted. Switched on and grown or switched off and depleted. So through our research, we were looking for just 5 of what we call the essentials, 5 key things that organizations are obsessed about. I'm going to share the model with you now. What I'm inviting you to do as I go through this, think about where you are at right now. Think about you as a human being. Think about your organization. Where are you at? Remember, this is all in the context of creating that people are willing to perform. We were looking for 5. 5 became 7, and eventually we found 12 of what we call the essentials of a company behaving awesomely. And 12 felt like too much. So we went back to the clients, to the organizations we had researched. We said, guys, which of these can we take away? And they said, none of them. You need to keep them all. They are all essential. Hence, we call the model the 12 essentials. And this is what it looks like. Those are the 12 essentials, and they've been crafted in this honeycomb interconnected structure because they are all giving shape and structure and stability to each other. What we find is too often organizations pick 1 or pick 2. Maybe they pull people push. Oh, we'll go and spend a whole lot of money on people development. That'll make us an amazing organization. But we don't do anything about our ways of working. We don't do anything about our workspace. Or even worse, I see organizations, I'm an ex-architect. I understand space. I see organizations going and spending millions on fancy offices with purple couches and big coffee machines. And now we have a great culture. Now people will be happy. No, those are just gestures. Those are contributing gestures, but it doesn't change the overall work experience. We've got to be getting all of these right and connecting and interconnecting. We then went a step further and made them tangible in English, because what frustrates us like crazy is working into organizations, walking in, finding values plastered on the wall or on the website. And I say to the CEO, Mr. or Mrs. CEO, tell me about your values. Tell me about the behavioral constructs. And they've got to look around. Well, let me see what's on the wall, because they don't live them. These things need to be simple and lived. So we've made them tangible in English so they can be woven into culture, into leadership constructs, into the critical components of building your employee experience, which ultimately creates your customer experience. What's really important to understand is this interconnectedness and understand how they are all pushing and pulling on each other the whole time. You know, if you have a breakdown in your meaningful communication, that's absolutely going to negatively impact your knowledge flow. It's definitely going to impact ownership and accountability. It'll probably have a negative impact on your innovation with intent. And so we go. So really critical to understand how these are all pushing and pulling at each other and become proficient at the components of human and employee experience. Now, during this time of pandemic, there's massive uncertainty. We don't know where to put our feet. We've seen this as the biggest theme, working with organizations, helping them find their way forward. They don't know where to put their feet. It's like crossing a busy rapid, and you don't trust. Everything looks slippery. You don't know which rocks are stable. And the only way to move forward is to test and look at, okay, that one looks like it's stable. That one looks like it's stable. What can you take for certain? And then where do you need to experiment and have some flexibility? So some rocks you'll put your foot on because you trust them. You know that they go nowhere. And others look a bit dicey. You experiment a little bit. And so my suggestion is learning how to start from certainty. Understand that people become more willing to show up and perform when they have certain things that they can trust and work with as being fact until proven otherwise. So what can you be certain of? You can be certain that the future will be very different. You can be certain that we will all need new skills and talents. You can be certain that there is opportunity in crisis. You can be certain that behaviors have already changed and that a lot of the old that we knew will disappear. You can absolutely be certain that digital is real. Anything we might have avoided and denied before, it is real. You can also be certain that people matter. You can take that for certain. What gets interesting is where do you need to maintain flexibility? Things like, when will the lockdown end? The real lockdown. When will we go back to life as usual? How long will the economic downturn last? How much will behavior change? What might never return to normal? How relevant might our business model be? These are things we need to be flexible about, because if we get stuck in being certain about things that we shouldn't be certain about, we're going to experience pain, discomfort. What we can be certain of, and where we're doing a lot of our work at the moment, those 12 essentials that I've now shared with you, those we know for sure. We know for sure those are the essentials that create human and employee experience and customer experience. So if we work with those as being certain, we apply some flexibility in terms of, okay, what we do is important. The how we do it, maybe now we need to be flexible about. That changes our intentionality around creating experience. And back to what I said was so important, connection. The quality of the experience determines the quality of the connection. The quality of the connection is going to determine the quality of the output. The quality of the output is going to determine the continuity, the human continuity and the business continuity. So this is where it becomes scientific and intentional. So if we go into this model now, and we have a look still at, in the W of the formula, willingness, we take something like shared purpose. As an organization, being strongly aligned with our reason for believing in ourselves and why we exist. It's tempting to stop chasing one's dreams when it feels like everything's crashing around you. The more that people lose, the more they'll need to find a purpose to hang on to. And it's so important for us to connect those dots, to stay focused on what makes us matter, what makes us relevant, what can we align around, pointing in the same direction. That builds willingness. That's how you motivate and inspire people. That's how you onboard people. So important to create that shared purpose. If we then move on in the formula to the A, the ability, first A, what is it that enables and equips people to be able to do what they need to do in the context of performance? So meaningful communication, for example, for me is a critical one. We call meaningful communication, we'll describe it as our messaging being succinct, relevant, specific, and authentic. And we are always available to receive. What is the quality of your communication right now? Do people know what is expected of them? That is one component of communication. Is it clear how people are being measured? And I was watching on TV the other night, there's this program called The Last Dance, and it's about Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. And I noticed this score mechanism, the scoreboard above the court. And all that the scoreboard demonstrates the whole time is time, seconds, and score. Seconds and score. Seconds and points. That's all the players are chasing, seconds and points. I then looked at the coach. There was one scene, and the coach has got all of these stats all over the place. He's got a lot more information, and he's got a bigger picture. Right now, it's really important for people to understand the bigger picture, to be measuring their impact, not measuring ourselves and other people much more in terms of measuring just seconds and points. They need to understand the bigger picture. Can the people you work with explain at the end of a day or 2 days or a week what the impact was that they had on the team, on the organization, on themselves, on their leadership, on the client? Can they explain the impact that they had? If they can't, they're measuring seconds and points and they're not in the bigger picture. This will create a lack of energy, further disconnection, further demotivation. We need to meaningfully communicate the bigger picture. Also, we do a lot of work helping organizations understand what's going on inside the organization, inside the culture. And we do all sorts of assessment processes, and we often change what we can see. But right now, we can't see anything. We aren't aware of anything. Now, if you're struggling, or you think someone else is struggling, you need to be communicating meaningfully. You need to be sharing. This requires a whole different level of vulnerability. Somebody's ability to perform, the A, is going to be based on where they are at and how much assistance they're asking for or receiving. This requires meaningful communication. We've got to make it safe because we are dislocated. There's a lack of expression right now. It very much is about going back to basics. We literally need to dial down a lot of what we're doing and go back to basics. Something as simple as picking up the phone, having conversations. I walk outside with my phone, I put it in my pocket with a headset, and I just walk around, getting some sun and having phone conversations, getting away from the screen because there's so much time on the screen. Back to basics. Decide, where do you need to be on the screen, on Zoom, on Teams, or whatever, and where can you just pick up the phone and go walk in the fresh air? Simple, simple basics that can completely change the way we communicate, the way we show up. Something else in terms of people's ability to perform is ways of working, rules, systems, processes, values that work and that we can all believe in. What of these did we bring in to this pandemic? What rules, systems, processes, values? What did we bring in that we should have cut loose years ago? And what do we need to take out with us in the new world? This pandemic will have exposed many, many frailties, many weaknesses that needed to be eliminated. Have you highlighted the weaknesses in your ways of working, and are you doing something about them? At the same time, there will be significant strengths that will have been highlighted, things that have really enabled us to carry on, to be impactful, to make a difference, to stay connected. Have you identified what those strengths are? Are you building on them? Are you amplifying them? Is somebody mandated with that piece of work? Identifying the strengths, identifying the weaknesses. Or is everybody expecting that someone else is taking care of this, changing the way we work? Is everybody communicating meaningfully, or is nobody communicating meaningfully about what's working, what's not working? Are we all just in complaints? Check yourself. Check your systems. Then we move on to the A, authorization. Have people been authorized? Have they been invited, allowed to perform? You're amazed at how much we do to block performance. Now, authorization, the construct in our essentials model, which I think fits perfectly in there's ownership and accountability, comfortably leaving responsibility where it was given and taking responsibility when it is given. Also putting up your hand when it's required. It's so complicated at this dislocated construct that we're experiencing right now. To understand and be clear on who should be owning what, that goes back to meaningful communication. Is it being well articulated? What is expected of each other? Because the greatest disappointment usually lives in unmet expectations. The biggest relational breakdowns usually live in unmet expectations. And often unmet expectations are because of uncommunicated expectations. We need to be checking Are we clear on what we're expecting of each other? And are we explaining it? And at the same time, I also want to emphasize, I said earlier, we've got to care first. Expecting even higher performance right now is a stretch, with people being stuck at home, trying to survive, have the basics going on, and then still get their jobs done. We're not working from home. We're stuck at home trying to survive a pandemic, hoping to be able to get our jobs done. Yet, to my point, business needs to carry on. So this is why we've crafted this performance formula, to create the conditions for success so that people can perform, that there's a way, and that there's also a common language. Really important to understand at the moment as well, that we need to be viewing everything through the lens of experimentation, through the lens of trying new things and making it safe to explore new things, but being open to exploring. Have we authorized the people we engage with to try new things? Have we made it safe? And this is where, in the construct of the essentials model that I shared with you, when all 12 of those essentials are working at the highest possible level of experience and impacting each other positively, what you get is what we call a container of trust. That salmon framework there is a container of trust, and it creates psychological safety. And that's where we believe that we are safe to experiment. We believe that we will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes. That is what psychological safety is. That we feel safe to take a leap, to stretch. This is a time where human beings and organizations who create safety, and B, try new things, because old things are old, are going to move forward, are going to thrive, not just survive. We've got to create that it is safe. We need to be behaving like partners. And partnership is having each other's backs. No matter what, we both or all know it. And I want to say that again. Partnership with everybody we're engaging with, having each other's backs, no matter what, we both or all know it. Now, this is hard. When we're in our own personal survival mode, how do I partner and have someone else's back? Think about how you can best show up. Think about how you can be bigger right now than just yourself, because of the collective contribution in terms of your team, your clients, your colleagues, the people you may lead. Do you have each other's backs? We need to be caring. We need to be conscious. Trust is a product of consistency, and this is where partnership is experienced. Trust is kind of, I view it as this bucket. When you meet a new person or you start a new relationship, you have a full bucket full of trust, and you've done nothing to break that trust yet. And trust is power. That full bucket is power. And then we start to puncture holes in it. We don't deliver on something we said we would deliver on, or we are late, or we do something different to what we said we would. We create holes. And that power, that trust leaks out. And it is extremely difficult. It takes multiples longer to patch those holes and to rebuild the structure of that trusting relationship. So right now, think about, how is your bucket looking in terms of the relationships you have? What is the level of trust, which equals the level of power, the level of quality of experience that you are creating for yourself and other people? It's so important to have what we call the uneffwithables, the unfiddlewithables, certain boundaries, certain lines that no matter what the pressure is, you will not cross, because that is where the trust is broken. That is where the holes get made. And to have that as teams, as organizations, and as an individual, your own trust constructs. Because if you visualize power, you don't want to be losing that power. That power is where the continuity lives. Human continuity, business continuity. So I want to introduce you to a character. His name is Ralph. And during our research exercise for writing our book, Andy, my business partner and co-author, was at a conference. It was an innovation conference. And she came back to the office and she was all flustered and irritated and frustrated. And she was ranting at me about this character she had met, and his name was Ralph, at this innovation conference. And she said, you know, everything that they were saying about the future and change and technology and innovation, he was just poo-pooing and dismissing it. And I said to her, you know, we're probably going to come across a lot of people like that in our journey. And we need to embrace it. We need to understand it. We need to work with it. So we did the mature thing and we named Ralph. And this guy has now come with us on our journey, because Ralph stands for refusing to allow learning and progress to happen. Now, the question I want to ask you right now is not does your ID, if your ID book says Ralph, my apologies, that was not intentional, but are you potentially being Ralph? Are you refusing to allow learning and progress to happen? Are you digging your heels into the ways of old? Or are you starting to embrace new? Uncomfort, comfortably uncomfortable, but moving forward, are you starting to embrace new? So when you have a look at these 12 essentials, and you start to think about the experience you're creating for other people and the authorization for them to participate, might you be intentional around them, or might you now become intentional around them? Because what you don't want to do is be here saying, because that's the way we've always done it here, that's how we're still doing it, because that's not going to get you to move forward. The problem you've got to watch out for is what we call the trap, which is the chase. We obviously have shareholder and stakeholder pressure, boards and various investors in our businesses that are looking for a return on funds invested, and it's real. But the problem is that this as a lane is not sustainable if we don't switch people on and grow them. The sustainability of this is switching people on and grow them. The results will come. The results will come, but only if we switch people on. Now, the relevance of all of this in terms of our future, the continuity of our businesses, is that what we found while we were doing the research is those 12 essentials that I've shared with you, those 12 essentials that create employee experience, are the exact same components of building an organizational culture that create that a company is able to innovate. To be innovation ready, people need to be feeling safe, like they can contribute, like they can show up, like they can give their ideas. But your market relevance out there is going to be based on the tension between the experience your people are having and their ability to respond to external market needs, to be externally focused. And this is a constant loop. Employee experience creating innovation readiness, creating business relevance. So if you are complaining about the external environment, this, that, the other, we're not able to respond, we can't come up with ideas, we don't know what's going on, what is the employee experience that you're designing to create that you're able to do the things you're looking to do out there? It's critical to be hacking your workplace culture. Because while we focus on ROI, return on investment is our language for it, we think about it differently. We think about ROI as the risk of ignorance. What are we not paying attention to that's going to get us into big trouble? So if I come back to my performance formula, we've got P equals W times A times A, performance equals willingness times ability times authorization. But how do we make this sustainable? We divide it by the relevance. So create willingness, create ability, create authorization, but then check, is everything we're investing time, energy, money into relevant? What is our relevance? Because it gets completely diluted. All of that stuff above the line. And that's where your sustainability lives or dies. So WTF, what is the future? I don't believe that the future is a conversation of uncertainty. I believe the future is a conversation of flexibility. We need to be adapting. We need to be thinking differently. And most critically, I think that WTF should really be a conversation around what are they feeling? What is the experience we are creating for everybody we are engaging with, inside and outside our organizations? In a future of deep technology, we need to double down on deep human. It's so critical not to get caught up in embracing the technology versus humanity. Understand it, but don't become it. Rather embrace humanity. You'll notice I haven't spoken about technology at all during this presentation, because tech is just an enabler. It is just a tool. And a fool with a tool is still a fool. We need to become human savvy. In this future of uncertainty, there is going to be no new doing without new thinking. And so we need to be having a look at where might we be getting in our own ways. The closing message that I want to leave you all with is, dear human, business culture and human experience is constantly being created, either in spite of you or deliberately by you. Take care of yourself and take care of each other. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brad. I thoroughly enjoyed that. There's lots of points of learning for us. And I hope that our brokers and everybody that's joined us today has had a lot to learn. Guys, please remember to please post your chat questions onto the chat box. And like Brad said, I think for me, my biggest learning out of this is that trust is a product of consistency. And at I2, we promise expert service always. And so that means you guys can hold us accountable for when we don't deliver on what we said we would. And we promise to always deliver on what we said we would, and we are accessible. Therefore, if there's anything, come to us, let us know, and we'll deliver that expert service that we always promised you guys on. Justin, are you still on? Is there anything you want to say?
Yes, I'm still on, and Brad, thank you very much for a really great and interesting talk. I mean, I think really it's I think you've answered so many questions about what leaders are feeling and thinking at the moment. So maybe just to open it up to anyone, if you would like to put on your microphone and ask any questions. But you know, for me, the big takeout is really WTF. What are they feeling? And leaders, you know, I mean, I guess maybe one question that I have to Brad is how do you know what they're feeling when you're in lockdown and you're working from home, and how do you keep that connectivity? So maybe Brad, if you've got any views on that, because for me, the big take out of all of this, we're in an uncertain time, we're in a new time, we're working from home, and for me, the summary of all of this is to think about what are they feeling in terms of your team. But maybe a question, Brad, is you know, how do you keep a finger on the pulse when you can't walk around the office and you can't see people? How do you know what they're feeling when they're all working from home in their living rooms? That would be a great question, Brad, if you could give me some insights into that. And then I would also like to say to anyone, you know, this is a good conversation, and many of the learnings in these talks come from a bit of a conversation afterwards. So if anyone would like to put on the microphone and the video and ask Brad or myself a question about how R2 is doing things, it would be great to hear from you. So Brad.
Cool, Justin, that is a fantastic question. I've seen, obviously, we've been working with lots of organizations through this time and seeing how people have been experimenting with different ways. Of that has been one of the biggest questions is, how do I know what people are experiencing? Because people often don't feel safe to share. They don't, you know, we're not allowed to be vulnerable at work. It's a lot of organizations don't get that vulnerability is important. People feeling safe to express. So step one is make it safe for people to talk, to share and say, hey, I'm having a crap time. My business partners and I, we have every single morning at 8:30, we dial in for, we call it a shuttle. It's a still human huddle. And we ask 4 questions. The first question is, how are you? And it's not about work. It's how are you doing? And often we'll say, yeah, I'm exhausted. I'm completely burnt out. I'm struggling. I haven't managed to get this done, or I've got this going on with my family, or whatever. How are you? And we hold the space to care for each other and just have a space to let that out. The second question is, what are you hoping to achieve today? It's intentionality. And by achieve, we mean what I spoke about, impact. What is the impact that you're looking to have today? That's different from what am I looking to do? It's very different. The third question we ask is, how can I be of assistance to you? How can I be of assistance to you? Or the other way around is what I need from you. And then the fourth question is, what do you need from me? So it is a very, very powerful space of sharing, and it is not a space of policing. It's not a space of, oh, sorry. The other question is the what I need, and the last one is, how did I do with what I had intended to achieve in terms of impact yesterday? So how did I do yesterday? What got in the way? But it's not for policing. It's for clarity and intentionality. Then, in terms of understanding where people are at, I find it's very powerful to be creating short check-ins, leaders connecting with their team a couple of times a week, one-on-one, just for 5 minutes. 5 minutes is all it takes. And quite profoundly, I've had some leaders say to me, but I just don't have time for that. I said to them, okay, hold on. If you as a leader don't have time to take 5 minutes, a couple of times a week to check in with your team, what are you doing? Because that's leading. And what's become very interesting is what people are identifying as my team. When I say, how many people do you lead? I've had some people say to me 1,000. I said, no. How many people do you lead directly? That's your check-in layer. You don't have to go below that. People below you need to go below that. So work out, who do you need to be checking in with frequently, purely exhibiting care. How are you? How can I be of assistance? Also understand, if you are leaders in this call, you need someone to go to as well. You need to find, where can you go to express as well? Otherwise, you're just absorbing the whole time, and that's hectic.
Brad, thanks for the feedback, and it's opened up one other interesting question, which I've been thinking about a lot. So assuming you get all of this right, and you build up this trust, and you build up these energized, engaged employees that have the willingness and the ability and the authorization to perform, and you get the formula right and relevant, how much policing do you think you need? Because that's an interesting question. When you've got the formula right, could you be as crazy to say, we're not policing and there's complete trust both ways, or do you still need some form of policing in this work from home environment?
So Justin, I would think about the language, because policing comes with an energy, it comes with a construct. So if we were to play with that, if you've created, people are willing, which means they're energetically coming to give their best discretionary effort, and you're constantly maintaining that willingness. That's a leadership role. Maintain the willingness, keep people on board. If they are capable or able, so they've got whatever they need to be able, clarity of expectation, they have the tools and the equipment, they have the right people around them, all of the things that enable or disable, and then the authorization, they're given permission to do what they need to do. You've now created the construct for performance. What people need is to understand how they're being measured. So what is the impact that you as a leader, for example, are looking for? And everybody needs to understand the required impact. Not how many hours am I wanting your bum in the chair, not I'm wanting this, and this task completed, impact. Then they get to work out, what are they doing? Now, this is a perfect leadership scenario when everybody understands their impact and they're looking for their own ways of doing things. Then what I would be policing, or rather tracking, is that impact being experienced? So now I'm looking at what is that in terms of the impact on a business deliverable, because this all comes back to business deliverables. So if we're not achieving where we need to be achieving, I'll walk my way back along the lines of impact to see where is the impact not being met. And then I have a look at what's getting in the way of that impact being met. It's a different leadership construct, requires communicating differently, but it's not box ticking. It actually is trusting people to be adults, so to speak, let them get on with it. But understanding as a leader, checking in terms of, are they satisfied with the impact that they're having, and is it aligned with your expectation? If not, then you're having coaching conversations about how to dial up the impact. So you never take your eye off it, but as a leader, you're not micromanaging tasks, you're macro-managing impact. And I think that's the shift for a lot of people. It's way more powerful with this dislocation we're experiencing. It's impossible to micromanage. Any of you who are out there having a really hard time leading because you were used to leaning over people's shoulders, this is going to be a very difficult time to lead, because we can't do it that way anymore. We have to change the methodology.
Sure, Brad. I think you've answered that really well, and I think you've given us so many things to think about. It seems like you've written this book with perfect timing and directly for COVID-19. So some really interesting insights. I think that's all the questions I have. I'm just going to have a quick look on the chat group if there are any other questions. I think most of it is compliments, and I don't think any other questions. Let me just have a
it's
quick
mostly
look.
compliments. Yeah,
mostly
just very
compliments.
good feedback.
So great. Yeah, I think that's it, Brad. But really a big thank you from R2 for joining us, and thank you to all of our brokers for joining. And I really do challenge, with a session like this, I think that the key is you can listen, you can take in some good ideas, but I really do challenge all of our team, particularly the team leaders at R2, or even if you're a team member at R2, get some of this going in your team. And I challenge all of our brokers to give this a try. I really like the morning huddle with asking the 4 questions. So I really challenge the team and I too and our brokers to try some of these things. Think about the formula and think about WTF, what are they feeling? For me, that's really powerful. So thank you, Brad, and thank you to everyone that's listening. And I think as is tradition, if you want to put on your video or shout out or ask a question as you're leaving, it's been great having you for another great Tuesday.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you for an incredible session.
Yeah, I also thought that was absolutely brilliant. Thanks, R2 and Brad. Brilliant, brilliant.
Thank
Great
you.
stuff, Lauren. Go out and try it, eh?
Yeah.
Thank you, Justin. Thanks, Brad.
Claudine, do you hear you have a new role as our HR manager? So I think we need to change your title with immediate effect.
Great.
So lovely to have you listening in. Really relevant for you and I to be thinking about at these times. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Justin.
Cheers, Errol. Nice to hear from you, man.
Excellent, excellent. It really was an hour well spent.
Good stuff. Great to hear. Thank you for spending the hour with R2 and with Brad.
Thanks,
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you, CJ.
Sorry,
See
can
you
I
at the
just
next one.
Thanks, guys. That was really great.
Thank you so much.
can I just ask a question where we can get the book from, a copy of the book?
Yes, sure. Brad or
The
Tove.
book is available at Exclusive Books. It's also available on Amazon. It's where the full title is "We Are Still Human and Work Shouldn't Suck." We Are Still Human, Work Shouldn't Suck, and it is available on Amazon.
Great stuff. Thanks,
Already
Brad.
Thanks very much.
Tove, I think we'll commit to buying a couple of copies as well, which we can chat about, and maybe a few giveaways, because it's been a really great session. And we'd love to share some copies and get all of our team and our brokers applying some of this.
Yes, we will send out a mailer to all of our brokers with a challenge, and we'll send them a few of Brad's book.
Great stuff.
Yes, please, that will be great.
Okay, everyone. I think, can we say cheers? I think that seems to be all. There in the message group, you can find out where to get Brad's book at Amazon, and I'm going to do that myself. And also, you can get it at Exclusive Books. Thank you very much to everyone for joining us. Another great Tuesday, and thank you so much, Brad. It was great to hear some of your insights and really relevant content for what we're going through at the moment.
Thanks
So
for having me.
final word.
Thank you so much, Brad. Yeah, I think that was fantastic, and it's relevant for all of us. And there definitely lots of practical things that we are going to apply as I2, because we are aiming to be that CPA, company behaving awesomely. So thank you, Brad.
Thanks
so much, Brad.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me. Take it easy, everybody.
Cool.
Cheers, guys.
Okay. Ciao. Bye.